I've spent most of my life feeling afraid that I somehow wasn't enough just the way I am, wouldn't be loved. And so I donned a suit of armor to protect myself. And that suit of armor, that distance it created, has cost me a relationship with my son. It's also cost me a marriage. And by a marriage, I mean 2 marriages. Okay, by 2 marriages, I mean 3 and an engagement, but that's all. So it's taken me a long time to figure out, well, how do you find the courage to overcome a fear and drop that suit of armor? So the story begins in a cute little seaside town, the south of England, called Bournemouth. And Bournemouth is about 100 miles southwest of London. And growing up, I was very small for my age and wore National Health spectacles. They were round and pink. Ugh. So, yeah, naturally enough, I was bullied on a fairly regular basis. Until, that is, I reached the age of 13. I come across a magazine article with pictures of Hell's Angels biting heads off of chickens. I know. But somehow it gave me the impetus I was looking for. You know what? I'm gonna stop this. So that day at school, I went looking for the biggest kid in our year. His name was Pritchard. He's not here, is he? Pritchard. Pritchard was a giant, at least compared to me. Well, I found him, and I poked him, and pushed him, and prodded him, and told him to meet me in classroom 3C at 4 o'clock after school, where I was going to beat him up. Did I really just say that? Well, of course, then all the fear kicked in. I was terrified, petrified, stupefied, mortified. So it was a very long day, but I was more afraid of being called a coward, so I somehow overcame my fear and showed up at the requisite hour to find a very eager group of spectators, like you do. And so I got the first punch in, at least that's how I like to remember the story anyway, before Pritchard knocked my lights out. Bless him. Well, a teacher intervened, so all was okay, until the next day, of course. I realized, walking back through the school gates, I really hadn't thought this through terribly well, because, yeah, you guessed it, Pritchard's waiting at the gate. I go, okay. So he started walking towards me, and I froze. I couldn't move. He walked up to me, and he raised his arm. I'm like, I cowered. He put his arm around my shoulder, and he said, "That was the most courageous thing I have ever seen." He walked me all the way into school, I can still feel it, and changed my life that day. I never felt bullied since. It's exactly the same day that I put on the big suit of armor to protect this little sensitive boy on the inside. Wow. That was quite the struggle. It was many years later that I was to be working on a legacy, something I wanted to leave for my kids. I was writing my book and writing everything I'd learned about individual and corporate transformation. And it seemed to flow fairly effortlessly until I got to chapter 4. I stopped dead again. This time it was the chapter on life purpose. And I thought I really knew my life purpose. I thought I had it all figured out. And so it came as a surprise, and it took me 10 full months of soul searching to figure out, well, I actually did know who I was. I did know what my gift was that I wanted to bring to the world. It was really clear. But I was afraid. I was afraid to drop that suit of armor, to just be me. Wow. Now, fear is a perfectly natural emotion. It's there to protect us. And fear will kick in when anything that we care about is at risk, whether it's our health, wealth, status, anything we care about, the fight or flight response will kick in. We'll be afraid. But the scientists have discovered something with all their functional MRI scans. There's an area of the brain, you can all point to it now. There's an area of the brain right in the middle between your temples called the subgenial anterior cingulate cortex. Remember that? Yeah, it took me a bit longer than one go. So that part of the brain actually dampens down the fight or flight response. Its job is, even though there's fear, even though you have a fight or flight response going on from the amygdala, that part of the brain is effectively quashing it just enough that you can still take action. So what they figured out is you can actually relearn courage to overcome a fear that you've learned. So if you're terribly afraid of what everybody else thinks, guess what? You can learn something different. How? Well, let me explain it this way. So you can't give away that which you do not have. And I maintain everybody has this area of the brain. We just need to jumpstart it sometimes, right? How do you do that? Well, if you could give away courage, you'll have more for yourself. If you could encourage someone else, you will find more for yourself. Is it really that simple? Actually, it is. So it was a little while later, I was working with a lot of executives at coaching them. And what I started to realize was, wow, they've all got the same challenge. They've all got their suits of armor on. They're not being vulnerable. They're all closed up. There's there's no new learning going on here. What can I do to help encourage them? And the more I encouraged them, the more courage I found for myself. So the book got finished. The more I helped them pursue their dreams, the more I got ready to pursue mine. So I sold my house the same day, just back in October last year, climbed in my car, and drove to Austin with my new book in hand to pursue my dream. That's what I did. Yeah. Well, I've never needed Pritchard's arm around my shoulder as much as I have in the past 8 months. So thanks to Pritchard. But thanks, too, for everybody that I coached. I thought I was helping them. Wrong. They were helping me and helping me find the courage that was buried in here to pursue my dream, to do what I wanted to do, to be little old, very sensitive me. So I have a challenge for you. Are you ready to change someone else's life so that you can change yours? Could you impart courage in another so you'll have more for yourself? Are you ready, even at this event today, to find someone else and encourage them just to be themselves? I certainly hope so. Thank you. Thank you very much.